Taking reactions to Vice President Kashim Shettima's criticism of the Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria for holding the nation to ransom after what he called a minor labor dispute. Speaking at the 31st Nigerian Economic Summit in Abuja on Monday, the Vice President faulted Pengason's nationwide strike that commenced on September 28 over the dismissal of Nigerian workers by the Dangote refinery. Although the strike was suspended on October 1st after the Dangote group agreed to redeploy the sacked workers, Shettima defended Dangote, describing him as a leading light in Nigeria's economic parliament, saying that Dangote is not an individual, but an institution.
I want to dwell on something that is very dear, a topical issue that is very dear to the heart of every Nigerian. Aliko Dangote is not an individual. He's an institution. And he's the leading light in Nigeria's economic parliament. And how we treat this gentleman will determine how outsiders will judge us. If he had invested $10 billion in Microsoft, in Amazon, in Google, probably he might be worth $70 to $80 billion by now. But he opted to invest in his country, and we owe it to future generations to jealously protect, promote, preserve, and project the interests of this great Nigeria.
All right, a lot of reactions. I've trailed the story, and I'll take some posts on X. And this person wrote, a vice president should be careful not to sound like he's defending one businessman personally, but rather upholding the rule of law and fair competition. When the tone tilts too much towards one person, it can easily be seen as favoritism, especially by smaller entrepreneurs who may feel that the government only stands behind the big names. The message would have carried far more weight if it had focused on protecting every investor and every business that still believes in Nigeria, no matter their size or influence. After all, the river that forgets its small streams will soon dry. Every contributor to the nation's growth, big or small, deserves to be valued and protected. Well, another tweet there goes, as a business person, I agree with the VP. Dangote isn't just a man. He's an institution that has created jobs, driven investment, and opened doors for others. The way we treat builders like him sends a clear message to the world about doing business in Nigeria. Well, meanwhile, protesters took to the streets of Kaduna on Monday, accusing an oil import cartel of undermining local refinery efforts and calling on the federal government to protect the Dangote refinery. The demonstration, organized by Partners for National Economic Progress, began peacefully at Murtala Square and proceeded through major roads. The protesters carried banners and sang solidarity songs condemning players in the fuel importation business for frustrating private refining initiatives. Let's take a look.
How can an importer be competing with a producer? Now they can no longer compete. They are telling us about monopoly. You cannot deal with monopoly if you are not a producer. If you want to build refinery, go and invest in it. So what we are here to do is to urge Nigeria and to tell the president that he can actually end this sabotage, because it's a sabotage that's going on.
We expected the federal government to arrest the leadership of Pengason to serve as a deterrent to those who may wish to hide under labor unions to commit crime. What they did was clearly not unionism but outright criminality. It should never repeat itself, never in our history anymore.
I see you smiling and laughing. I mean, I believe these protesters have the right to protest. I mean, you remember that Kaduna used to be one of the biggest industrialized cities, where they even had the textile manufacturing industry there, and it's all closed down. And one of the protesters there made that comment saying, if we close down this Dangote refinery, it's just going to be the same. But I mean, what do you make of the vice president's speech as well, in terms of, supporting Dangote in the way that he has? And of course, one of the Twitter users was talking about the fact that we cannot just only support Dangote. Other small businesses will feel left out.
Absolutely. Okay, so many things this morning. Earlier I said that it was about time that the presidency spoke up, because this is, we've often talked about how Dangote refinery serves a critical sector in Nigeria. And so when we talk about, a threat to energy security in the nation, a threat to revenue source in the nation, a threat to a group that provides, as the largest private group or private organization that provides the highest number of jobs in Nigeria, then we need to have conversations around this. So I'm glad that they spoke about that, and they actually call him an institution. And that's why we've said on this table that yes, whilst Pengasan on any labor union has a right to collective bargaining and using tools of strike actions to drive home their point, it must not be done at the expense of national security, energy security, or the livelihood of the nation and the people in the nation. Very clear, very important. And that's why we've also called even further for a look at the effectiveness of labor unions in Nigeria and the extent to which they can actually carry out their protest or strike actions. I am in support of labor unions. I think they are critical to ensure, to protect the welfare and rights of workers in any nation. But I'm also very sensible to know that you cannot do that by sabotaging national assets and national security in this way. So, I'm glad that he talked about that. But also that tweet, very instructive as well, because I want to believe that what the presidency was saying, because he's often talked about, attracting investment to not just the oil and gas sector, but to various sectors in the economy. And one thing the vice president mentioned was what it signals to external investors. Which is so it doesn't look like there's an enabling environment for businesses to thrive. Yes. And these are some of the criticisms when the president goes out to invite investors to ask, do we have an environment in Nigeria that not just businesses, where a businessman, whether in Nigeria or abroad, can come in, put their money in, and recoup investments in an environment that is friendly to business? When we see actions like this, it negates that. And so when he was saying that, I think he also covered that. But instructive that yes, Dangote refinery is a critical national asset, but also our small businesses. And I'm hoping that this will be a lesson for us. Not just, but the Dangote refinery will be an example of what other business owners face in Nigeria. Yes. Thankfully, he has the mass, he has the clout to make a lot of, to raise awareness about this. But how about those who don't have a voice? How about small business who have to grapple with multiple taxes, with the agberos on the road, with people who are coming to make business, running a business tough in Nigeria? So that's a critical point that the presidency should speak to the Dangote refinery matter, but also look at the environment for business in Nigeria. I think it's a task for this administration, rather than just talking about let's bring in investment. What does bringing in investment look like for investors in Nigeria? Is it worth it? Is the business environment friendly enough? Are there cartels that will continue to block operations? And finally, on the very, it's good that people are going out to protest Kaduna, but beyond the textile industry in Kaduna, Oji, just very recent, Kaduna refinery has not been working for so long. We've not seen any protests. This group that came out, it would be nice for them to also champion causes like that, because imagine if the refinery were working. Do you know how many people? Do you know how many people would be employed? Do you know how many? Do you know the contribution to the economy? So I think what brief are you talking about? I don't understand you, Rufai. Are you saying something that we don't know? What brief are you talking about? Everyone has a right to protest.
No, everyone has a right to protest. It's not their brief to protest about Kaduna refinery. They are protesting something. The brief is different. So
let us be fair. But I mean, I even heard you talking about, because I saw some videos. It's so important to support these businesses. Dangote refinery is our own. It's unbelievable that he's been going through, the refinery and all of the process have been going through all this sort of sabotage, as it were. But let me come to this story.
The truth is that this is promoting monopoly, and monopoly cannot strive our economy. That is just the gospel truth. You see, I love the tweet of that first person that reacted, that Ojobe just read out. You see, you don't promote, you don't push one page. You have to balance the equations. You don't have to make it look as if so obvious. The words of Vice President Shettima makes it look very, very obvious that it's one-sided. You have to be balance the equation and make whoever it is, promote the rule of law in whatever sense it is, instead of promoting and pushing up, one individual, saying that Dangote is not an individual but an institution. To me, is creating monopoly, is giving a higher hand, and discouraging small-scale businesses. And just like Ayo said, you look at it, all these are what scares investors from coming in to invest. Why are they coming in? They will look at first, do they have a thriving environment? Is the policy very okay for them? Not when they now come, instead of promoting using the rule of law, creating policies that will give enabling environment, you are now beginning to promote an individual. I think the words of Shettima, it's kind of biased, So I was thinking that at least Shettima would have, using his good office to balance, whatever it is in his words, not by trying to raise one side and then bring one side down. Just like the Twitter said, he said a river that forgot the stream at some point will get dried. So that is it. Dangote sometimes started very small, on a very small note, on a small size, before it grew up to what it is right now. So promoting him, telling the people that if Dangote has invested in Amazon, he has invested by now, he would have worth this, he would have worth that. Well, Dangote knew why he did not invest in Amazon. Perhaps he must have lost too. It's a two-way option. So it's not one-sided something. So if Dangote had invested in Amazon and maybe the business or the market crashes, his business, his money too would have gone as well. So it's a two-way sided something, and this is a nation building economy. So you don't expect that every aspect of every individual need to be respected. Every business environment need to be respected. Small, medium, large scale businesses need to be encouraged as well. So it's not by diminishing the smaller, medium scale businesses just so that you can promote an individual because of personal relationship or tribe or whatever. Because this is what people are beginning to target. Dangote is a tribesman to Shettima. Dangote is this, and before you know, it will turn out to a different thing. And before you know, other businesses will be leaving the country, and which is really not palatable. Anyway, these are my opinion. You can share your opinion with us in the comment sections. Let's get to know what you think about this.